say no.
Okay. Welcome back to From the Fabricator podcast. I'm your host, Max Perlstein. Thank you so much for joining. This is season number 2, episode number 3. And I am, still plugging along. So thank you so much for tuning in once again, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening audio wise on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much. Great show ahead. 3 incredible guests. And we're going to get to them in a moment. But 2 quick things to hit on. One, the industry deal of the century, maybe the biggest deal of all time. Oldcastle building envelope. The Oldcastle companies here in North America get sold. And that happened earlier this past week, $3.4 billion. And so that's going to be one to watch to see how that company goes after all of this. As I say after every deal, the hope is that the companies continue to be active in supporting the industry. And Oldcastle and CRL do a lot to support this industry with sponsorships and so on. So I'd like to see that continue, and it'd be great if it grew. So that is something to look forward to. And also, it always bears watching with new energy and new blood in our industry. There's a lot of people a lot smarter than me with some takes on this, and I'm sure you're going to hear about them at events like BEC coming up at the end of the month, and GPAD at the end of the month. And that's the other thing I want to hit on is if you have not registered for BEC and GPAD, stop the podcast right now. Go to glass.org, hit the events tab, find those 2 events, sign up, and then come back and finish listening and watching. You need to be there. Plain and simple. If you miss it, you're really, really missing out. Those who have attended will tell you it is well worth it. So if you're a glazer playing around anywhere within the glass and glazing business, BEC is for you. If you're a fabricator, you have to have someone in operations and plant management be at GPAD to learn about the latest and greatest on the software and the equipment side. The networking at both is off the charts. So glass.org, hit the events tab and get signed up. All right, time to get to our guests. 3 fun ones and 3 great ones this month. We kick it off with Matt Price from MPS / Armor Guard. I think you know him more from Armor Guard, but he's got the MPS business and it's pretty darn exciting. Then to the most requested guest of all time of this podcast, Julie Schimmelpeningh. More people have asked me, when is Julie going to be on? Guess what? She's here. I could probably end the podcast now. And then last, but certainly not least, a great, fun interview with Ron Crowl of Fenatech. Ron, interesting guy, smart guy, and really changed the way this industry has worked, and some great, good takes in that piece. So that's coming up. Check it out. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and let's go get it started. Okay. Kicking things off this month, I am thrilled to be joined by Matt Price. He is known throughout the industry as Matt from Armor Guard. He's a building envelope industry champion and advocate. MPS is the company that he has, and he's maybe not recognizable for those of you watching on YouTube. He doesn't look exactly the same. The beard's not there. The hair's closely cut. Matt, thanks for doing the podcast.
Oh, no, thank you, Max. Glad to be here and honored to spend some time with you on the video chat here.
Honor is all mine, my friend. I'm excited to get to know you because I had a conversation with you, I guess at the end of the year. We were chatting on a few things, and I did not realize your glass background. I actually thought, and we're going to get into Armor Guard and everything you do, I actually thought you came from the chemical side because you're so good with, the protection of glass and aluminum. I thought that's where you came from. I didn't realize that you were, quote unquote, one of us and came from the glass side. So talk about, your past and working in the industry and so on. Take us, for people like me who did not know any better, take us through the path of Matt Price.
Yeah, no problem. So I've been in our wonderful industry since 1997, late 96, early 97. Before that, I was in the Army, military, a whole other previous life. So I love our glass business, and the reason I'm such an advocate for protection is because I've lived it, right? I've served that nightmare. So I got in this business, Max, was going to college in Tallahassee, both at the community college there and then Florida State. Go Seminoles. Hopefully the football team's going to be better this year.
There you go.
And got into the glass business, literally working for Home Depot of all things, while I was going to school, and got into windows and doors there basically. Right. And then that kind of launched into, where I am today. So I cut my teeth early on with very light commercial work.
Okay.
And high-end residential work.
Okay.
So my background goes all the way from punched opening windows to, the high-rise curtain wall, structural glass, everything in between. I then moved into strictly commercial. You've been around for a while. I'm sure you remember back in the day, Traco, right? They're still around today. They're under the Connier Company. So I always tell people I got into commercial side as an architectural sales schlup for Traco windows, right?
Okay.
And that was back in the day when Traco was king. I mean,
yeah.
Literally, you had Traco and you had FCO and you had everybody else was out there, but they were smaller companies. And that was right about the time the acquisition of Flower City Glass, the assets of Flower City took place. And so, had a grand old time to, selling punch opening windows in high-rise buildings, and worked my way into operations and on up the chain. And I've really been blessed in my career to have an opportunity to work with some of the best in the business. So, many that'll be listening, have been around for a while, and they'll remember Raul Casares with RC Aluminum out of South Florida.
Oh yeah.
I was a project manager, then a project executive with RC Aluminum. Moved on to Harmon. Had the wonderful opportunity to work for Troy Johnson and Dave Brosh. Dave was, of course, it still is in the Orlando branch. Great organization. Excellent place to grow and thrive. Moved on from there to Perma-Stelisa, and was with Perma-Stelisa for a few years in project director role. And basically with some of my good friends, we ran work from all the way from Washington, D.C. down to Brazil, as we like to say.
Wow.
And then, I was always looking for something different, right? And the opportunity came calling. Actually, I made the opportunity with Armor Guard. The product that we now know as Armor Guard had existed for a number of years. I had become very good friends with the developer of the product. And quite honestly, Max, most people that know me know this story. I had the option of staying with Perma-Stelisa and moving to Windsor, Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Or which would have been a great opportunity, or doing something else, right?
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So I decided to move on and became 50-50 partners in what became Armor Guard Protective Coatings.
Yep. And
that would have been in, let's see, my little girl. I've got a daughter that's the love of my life. You'll see a picture of her behind my head here. She turns 5 in the spring. So that would have been late 2016 into 2017. We started developing that and got that kicked off. And the rest is history.
Sure is.
And the reason I'm so passionate about understanding and protecting glass is I've been there. I mean, I've been a project manager on a job that had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage, due to other trades. It's not our fellow brothers and sisters in the glass business 98% of the time that damage the product. It's the other trades. And bless their hearts, they don't mean to do it. It just happens.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into the business. And then, I'm just the type, Max, when I sink my hands into something, I want to understand it, from nuts to bolts. I want to know the whole thing. My background, my college background is in biology and chemistry. So I do have that understanding, right, of science and of how things go together. So it wasn't that much of a stretch to spend some hours studying chemical formulas and understanding how things react and interact. And, the best thing we could have done with Armor Guard as a company was the reach out that we did to others in the industry, right? To the Akzo Nobels, the PPGs, the Viracons of the business, right? The paint manufacturers and the glass fabricators to say, hey, folks, we're here to help. Test our product alongside with us. And we were able to do that. That's why the launch of that company was and remains to be successful as it is today.
No doubt, no doubt. And I'm with Matt Price and Armor Guard. You can see that online at www.armorguard.us. And check that out. And we're going to talk more about Armor Guard in a second and dive deep into that. It is interesting that you were at Traco, because when you were at Traco, you know, I was at PDC, Pearlstein Distributing. My brother, the company that he had built, you know, Traco was one of our biggest accounts, if not our biggest. I mean, so I remember those days in the 90s when they were monsters. And then I remember RC from being at Arch in the 2000s, and RC was a major player. So interesting the way our paths, you know, kind of connected and crossed. But I didn't meet you until you started Armor Guard, or started with Armor Guard and got things going. And we'll talk about that in a second too. But let's go back.
We kind of missed each other by a couple of years.
We did. We were on the same path, but just kind of missing. MPS. Talk to me about MPS, because that is the overall umbrella, right, that you're working under right now.
Sure. So my umbrella now is MPS. Is you're aware, Max, and as most listening to this podcast will know now, myself and my two business partners, you know, we sold Armor Guard protective coatings back over the summer. It's now a part of a group of companies that includes Groco Specialty Coatings and Oakland Automation. So we've got all different types of protective coatings blended with the automation side. And the company is now active not only in vertical construction, but also in the automotive industry, the shipbuilding industry, moving into aerospace. Great company, you know, solid people. And the analogy that I use is, you know, I grew the kid up, got him into college. They're on their own, right? I got it as far as I could with my resources. And trust me, in the early days, those resources were tight, because I'm not by no stretch of the imagination, you know, a daddy warbucks, right? But it worked. And, you know, the proof is in the pudding that's out there. It worked. So when the transaction took place and the sale took place, basically with the company, I did not stay on board as an officer of the company or as an employee. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be somebody's employee, right? Sure. So, however, they still wanted my expertise and my ability to be around as the face of the company, for better, for worse, or as that guy that people can call.
Right.
So I run all sales and marketing globally for Armor Guard brand through my company, which is MPS.
Gotcha.
Through MPS, now that you open the door, basically I'm able to do what I've kind of always wanted to do, and bring together a family of products and services to serve, you know, the brothers and sisters in the glass and glazing industry, whether they be a small mom and pop shop, which we love to death, or the biggest contract glazer in the world.
Right.
So through MPS, you know, we represent Armor Guard protective coatings, obviously, ores and extruded polymers, definitely a great company and one of the best in the business when it comes to EPDM and silicone gasket setting blocks and shapes for the architectural industry.
Gotcha.
You should have Mike Orzen on one day. I mean, you know, he was born in rubber. Let's put it that way. A great guy. We also represent Capital Tape. So we were able to take care of, you know, adhesive tapes, foam tapes, things like that. One of the companies that we brought on board, which is near and dear to my heart now, also is Blue River Coatings. Most people in our industry aren't going to be familiar with Blue River, but you're going to know who they are really fast.
Okay.
Blue River Coatings is a specialty paint and coatings manufacturer out of Nebraska that cut their teeth years ago manufacturing specialty paints for fabric aircraft wings. That then parlayed, once the vinyl industry hit in windows, to heat reflective paints for vinyl and plastics substrates. Now, a few years ago, I was actually partial to or part of the initial conversation. Another major paint manufacturer went to Blue River and said, "Hey, you got some great stuff out there, and it's all water-based and air dry." Right? That's the market that we're all getting into now, water-based and air dry. We need something in a touch-up paint that works on powder and liquid 2605 finishes,
right,
that can get the texture we need and everything else. But it's got to be water-based and it's got to be air dry. Can't be solvent-based.
Yeah.
We don't want to be releasing, all that, all those VOCs anymore.
Correct.
So Blue River rolled up their sleeves and developed a couple of coatings that do just that. It's one of the very few industry available water-based, air dry, AMA 2605 tested touch-up paints that's out there.
Gotcha.
And for any of you that are out there that listening that have issues with old bronze anodized aluminum, old clear anodized aluminum, or old faded paint of any type that's just severely oxidized, it can be 10, 15, 20 years old.
Yeah.
Literally, we can clean that surface, wipe on this product, single direction wipe,
right,
and that product will be renewed and look brand new again, and stay that way for at least 10 years.
Wow.
It's a very, very unique product that everybody be learning more about. So also with tying everything together, Max, under the MPS umbrella, we brought on a line of stainless steel custom embeds made by Neil Building Solutions, which you'll see a huge push on that coming forward, especially for the handrail market.
Yep.
One of the biggest things coming out of Florida, the Florida building market, is the interaction of concrete and aluminum and stainless steel and different materials, spalling, et cetera. So we're bringing that particular series on board, which is a patented line of ported fasteners that are sealed. No water can get into the concrete, can chase it in.
I've interacted with those guys on LinkedIn, and it's an impressive product. Yeah,
great product. We're actually they're going to be showing the next couple of days up in New York at the at the New York Build Show. I'll be up there Wednesday and Thursday myself,
great.
Along with some good friends of mine that that will be there. We're sharing a booth together.
Good.
You may know Matt Capone and the Facades X group out of New York City, so we'll be up there together.
Super.
Showing Armor Guard and a couple other different things. We've also, one of the things that I'm working with now, and I can't really release it all because it's not signed and inked, but energy efficient glazing systems are key to our future, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm working very, very closely right now with two manufacturers, one to bring state-of-the-art structural thermal brakes to the market that are easy to use for anybody from a mom and pop shop that doesn't have any fabrication and rolling and crimping equipment, or pour into bridge, or an ISO bar lacing system. None of that. All the way to very, very high tech vacuum sealed IGU technology.
Right.
And when we blend those two systems together here in the next few years, we're talking about building envelope systems that will exceed, R10 in thermal value.
Good.
It's going to be a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
And with some of the glass performances going up, putting a high performance glass and a high performance frame like that changes the game completely too. So that's nice. I mean, I love what you have with MPS. It obviously is a very focused niche sort of play that solves a lot of problems. And from all the different lines that you're talking about. And obviously, I mean, Armor Guard is how you're known. I know that you have MPS now, but Armor Guard is obviously not going away in your universe. That's a major play, and it's something that I'm seeing more and more of it. Maybe my antenna's up more, but I'm seeing you and Armor Guard in more places than I had before. Talk about why this product needs to be more often used on jobs, and B, is it really growing, or is my perception right that I'm seeing more of that?
No, it's definitely growing, Max. And anytime you do something good, it raises awareness. Number one, it can raise your competition. Number two,
true.
But we at Armor Guard extremely pride ourselves in being, almost like the Band-Aid, brand of protection now that's come up. Back in the day, you and I've been around for a while. We all used to use blue plastic, right?
Yep.
And there used to be a brand called Blue Max, right? That was out there. Everybody still calls it that. Although that brand is long gone, under my understanding. Armor Guard's kind of taken that over. And what makes us different is Armor Guard is a very simple to apply, water-based product that provides a solid protective shell three-dimensionally over the glass, the metal, the gasket, the silicone, the metal panels, the stone, whatever it may be. And we're not just talking vertical surfaces. We do horizontal surfaces.
Yeah.
I mean, with the product line, we protect everything from bathtubs to skyscrapers, right?
Yeah.
And everything in between. And, you know, it was tough in the early days to, and I act like that was a long time ago. It was just a few years ago, right? But in those early days to get the buy-in from our brothers and sisters in the glazing industry, they understood it. They're like, you know what, Matt, it's not my responsibility to protect it, right?
Yeah.
So I read into that and said, you know what, you're right. So let me spend my time and money and resources educating the general contractor and educating the owner and educating the consultants on why they need protection.
Right.
And educating the architects on why they need protection. You know, one conversation, Max, that every glazer out there will love was one day I walked onto a healthcare project and the architect was doing a walkthrough. Armor Guard product had been applied from 6 feet above finished floor down to the sills, you know, the typical danger zone on a job site.
Yeah.
And they're walking through and he's like telling the general contractor, I want all this stuff removed. I can't see the curtain wall. What is this on my wall? I want to see this. And I happened to be standing a few feet back doing a walk with the crew that had applied.
Yeah.
And I knew the architect from my glazing days. And I walked over, I won't mention any names. And I said, hey, how you doing? Good to see you again. He's like, hey, how you doing, Matt? And we got talking. He goes, what are you doing here? Did you do the curtain wall? I thought you were out of that business. I said, I am out. I said, my company provided the protection. He goes, why is this on my wall? It's ugly, right? Well, my response was simple. It was this. Was like, you know, we're not the Tom Brady. We're not the beautiful quarterback, not that he's beautiful man or whatever. You know what I mean? We're not that. We're not there to be seen. We're not there to be the figurehead. We're there to be kind of like I am, the big, beefy, you know, offensive lineman that protects the quarterback. So think of your building facade as the quarterback. We're the lineman that's protecting them, keeping them from getting pummeled by other trades during construction. And as soon as I said it like that, the architect clearly understood. And he said, well, what happens if there's any damage, you know, underneath this? I said, actually, the way the system is taught is that any damage has already been done in a blue beam report or whatever other report the applicator and the glazing contractor decide on. Photographs of any damage that was taken prior to application of the protection has been noted. Right. And they know it's there. They already have a punch list worked up.
Yeah. Anything
that's damaged afterwards, you're going to know because you're going to see a puncture through the material. You know, and we're going to solve your problems. You know, with the exception of somebody running into it with a forklift or a lull, right? Yeah. Or a pallet jack. You know, your welding slag, your grinding spark. You know, all that good stuff. Your abrasion. You've seen us at Glass Bill grinding away and having fun. So, you know, that really got their attention. And then once that happens and you start getting on the big tower in New York City, then it's the next block over. You're on that one. Then it's a project in Chicago. Then it's LA. Then it's London. You know. Then it's Paris. Then it's Asia. You know. Then it's the Middle East. We just set up a new distributor in the Middle East.
Wow.
So we are now on 5 continents.
Incredible.
You know, with every drop of material being manufactured right here in the United States. And COVID was tough for export, absolutely. But you know, we got it done and we protected buildings.
And it truly is a pay me now, pay me later sort of scenario. You either pay to protect your building up front, or you could pay exponentially on the outside of it with damage afterwards. And that sometimes people don't understand that risk or that problem. But you know, you want that peace of mind, in my opinion. Protect everything now. So if one of the trades does serious damage and totally by accident, a lot of times, you know, you don't have to worry about it at the other side.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really helping the material grow, Max, is the application in the shop that's being done by some manufacturers now. And also the growth of, I can't really call it a franchise, just kind of more organic than that. Maybe it'll turn into a franchise, but I've now got, you know, field applicators set up across the United States in different key strategic markets, union applicators in union markets, non-union applicators in non-union markets, to where if you're a general contractor and you're working on a project in Dallas, or you're working on a project in Denver or New York or Washington, D.C. or LA or San Francisco, Toronto, it doesn't matter. You can call me, and I said America, but throughout North America, you can call and say, hey, look, we need to get aligned with an applicator in this market that'll do it turnkey. Because again, more and more, it's not the glazing contractor. We've taken our brothers and sisters in the glazing industry a step away from that equation. Let them concentrate on building the wall, installing that beautiful wall.
Yeah.
The protection in many cases is now in the hands of the general contractor. So they're hiring the separate subcontractor to come in and do that application. And it's working beautifully. We all know there's a huge labor shortage out there that we're faced with right now anyway. And, I flat out said to one customer last week, I said, why would you want to take your skilled labor that you spent a lot of money teaching how to install a unitized curtain wall and put a spray gun in their hand and make them think, maybe I should go somewhere else. This is what I signed up for. I'm not a painter, right?
Yeah.
So we go out there and we find subs to do the work, and we set them up for that, and it goes beautifully. And their protection is more, more people are aware of it now. They're aware that it works. They've been through that cycle.
No doubt. I'm with Matt Price, and he's well known throughout this industry. His company MPS is doing some wonderful things for the industry, keeping glass and glazing safe and protected. Armor Guard's one of those things, and you can find them online at armorguard.us. A couple quick ones before we wrap up, because I know you've got a busy week ahead. I have to ask about the Armor Guard business card that you had created. It was the first time I had met you. It was Las Vegas. It was BEC. You introduced yourself to me. You handed me this business card, which was, I'm a weakling. I got no muscles at all. I'm not like you. And it was heavy, and it was handmade. It looked like, I assume, and it was really impressive. How did what came into your mind to make a hardcore business card the way you did?
Great question, Max. One I didn't expect, actually. It dawned on me one day as I was sitting there making samples out of old paint cards, right? Paint samples, lining them up, spraying them with material, masking off the edges, spraying them with material, trying to make them pretty, right? And then I'm putting a stack of those in one pocket and a stack of business cards in another. And I just got thinking to myself, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I could have somebody stamp me these out of metal? So then I went onto the interweb and did a little search, and found this company. Actually, I'll give them a plug out there. They're called My Metal Business Card, mymetalbusinesscard.com. And I've placed a few orders with those folks now. The cards that we order are made of stainless steel.
Yeah.
And then all of the data is etched into them. And, we order those. They're quite a bit more expensive than your average paper business card.
Oh, yeah.
But man, obviously it made an impression on you. And what an impression. When you hand somebody a stainless steel card,
yeah,
they're not going to lose it. And it's not for everybody, right? You don't just give it to somebody on the street. But then on the back side of it, where it says, has an American flag and it's etched in the back, made in USA, the Armor Guard's applied to the back. And the coolest thing about that was, Max, is that you put a thin layer on there because it's a business card, right? But when you peel that thin layer off, made in USA and the American flag is still on the Armor Guard, because it gets in every nook and cranny to protect it, right? Perfect. So it's the best. Honestly, I think it's the best couple of bucks I could have spent on marketing, because it opened the door. And still today, I'll run into people, at the AMA meetings or a glass build, or just, when I go calling a customer, they'll be like, hey, I got your business card in my desk here. You gave it to me 3 years ago, and they still have that. And it's a great conversation starter.
No doubt. And kudos to you, because I believe it's when you really were starting with Armor Guard. It was a great way to get your name out there. And I never forgot you from that. And you've grown so much since then. I mean, that was, at that event, you were working the room, and 2 years later, you're up on stage, welding something, showing how powerful the Armor Guard is. So you've come a long way, my friend. I know
thanks, Max.
I am definitely a fan. I know you're a workaholic. You're always working. I always see you on LinkedIn. You're applying. You're visiting. But what are some of the things? Let's go off topic here. What hobbies do you have? Hunt, fish. What keeps Matt Price sane at the end of the day?
Family.
Gotcha.
Family.
Good.
It's this last year in December. I was lucky enough and blessed enough in life to do something I had kind of always wanted to do, and that was to buy a chunk of acreage.
Nice.
So we just bought, my family and I bought 20 acres of land that's within 2 hours door to door of our house where we live here in Florida.
Congrats.
And I spent the weekend out there this weekend planting some fruit trees with my daughter and some sunflowers and spreading some wildflower seeds and getting different things ready and building memories. Right?
I like it.
We all work so hard, Max. And you got to have something to let go. I do love to fish. I do love to hunt. I love to be in the outdoors. However, I have to say that my work habits over the last couple of decades have not really lent to having much time to do that.
No.
But I'm trying to get back to that point now. As MPS grows, we've got plans at MPS to bring on 3 employees this year.
Super.
3 additional employees and grow the company. As that happens, then maybe there's a little bit more free time that's out there. Sure. Maybe that 3-day weekend once a month does pop up, right? We all know how busy the glass industry is. And, I'm going to be the last person to not pick up the phone when a customer's calling.
Yeah.
If somebody's calling me on a Friday night, there's a reason for it. Yeah. And I've taken those calls. If somebody's calling me on a Sunday, there's a reason for it. Everybody respects each other's time. And, you got to draw the line, but you got to be there. You got to be there for the industry and you got to be there for the customer.
Why you go to BEC and why you feel it's a good event for you and the industry?
Sure. Anytime anybody asks me that question, I tell them that in my opinion, the BEC, if you're not going to do anything else in the industry, show wise or meeting wise or conference wise, be at the BEC. The main reason being is, Max, is at the BEC, and this, you're there every year. Every major and minor glass company throughout the United States is in one form or fashion represented there. The majority of them are, whether it be a glazing contractor, manufacturer, glass fabricator, sundries manufacturer, whatever it may be, they're there. I was joking with some friends of mine at the last BEC, before COVID. It was in Nashville as well. We had thrown a great party to kick off BEC there. And, we actually made the comment that, man, if something were to happen, the brain trust of the entire industry is gone.
Yes.
And then the tornado hits, right?
Yes.
So knock on wood, let's hope that doesn't happen again. But that's it. The BEC it's all about networking and knowledge.
Yep.
And, Andrew Herring with the NGA and I had this discussion during Glass Build, last year in September that, I think it's very important that younger people in the industry start attending the BEC. So many times it's, your senior project executives and your vice presidents of operations and your ownership within the organization. But if we can find that gal or that guy that might be, a junior PM or just been promoted to project manager, and they've got a good head on their shoulder, and then they're going to be part of your succession plan, put them under your wing and bring them on. It's never too early to start networking. And, you may be a glazing contractor in Florida and you run into somebody from Northern California, and whereas the markets are completely different, you may learn something from each other, and you will learn something from each other
every year
on how to handle situations. And it's, to me, again, the BEC is the most important couple of days that our industry has. If you can't do anything else, be there.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the spring, it's BEC. In the fall, it's glass build, and you have to be at these
Yeah.
events to, to stay ahead of the market, stay ahead of the competition, and grow yourself. I mean, and I think I could say that it helped Armor Guard grow. It's going to help MPS grow. You being out and about at these events.
Absolutely, and we are doing another one of the Take Fives this
Great,
year on Tuesday at BEC.
super.
I'll be there, circulating through the whole conference, and look forward to seeing everybody there. It's that one time of the year where you can get everybody together and nobody's stressed, nobody's zipping through booth to booth at Glass Build. Those of us manufacturers and representatives that are there aren't locked into our territory and shaking 1,000 different hands every hour.
Yeah,
Not that it's been that busy lately, but you know what I mean. So
yeah.
it's good. I think BEC is going to have a huge turnout this year, and from what I hear, and it's definitely look forward to seeing you there, Max.
Absolutely, same. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit more, Matt. I'm with Matt Price, owner of MPS. You'll know him from the Armor Guard standpoint, armorguard.us. The MPS website still to come. You'll see him at BEC if you attend, which you should. He just made a great plea there. Lots of good things going on with you, sir. And the sky is the limit for you. You continue to rock and roll out there, and it's a pleasure to watch this progression go. It really is. I'm glad I've gotten to know you and continue to be a huge fan.
Thanks, Max. I appreciate your friendship as well, and everything you do for our industry. Thank you.
I do try. Thank you so much, sir. We'll let you get on your way. You got a big week ahead, and thanks for doing this. And we'll see you next month.
All right, sounds good.
Are you a glass fabricator? Do you want to improve the efficiency and output of your factory? Of course you do. So the place you want to be at the end of March is GPAD. Glass Processing and Automation Days in Nashville, March 29th and 30th. GPAD brings the best machinery and software operations from all over the world to present their latest and most important innovations. Glass fabricators from all over North America have attended past GPADs and made major plant purchasing decisions based on what they learned at this event. So if you want to take your operation to the next level, join the National Glass Association in Nashville at GPAD. Learn more and register today at glass.org/GPAD-conference. That's glass.org/GPAD-conference. Register now.
Okay. Now this one's a great one for me because there's one person that was asked for more than anybody else. The most requested guest on this podcast is Julie Schimmelpeningh. And I will tell you, I can't tell you how many times people said, when are you going to have Julie on? When are you going to have Julie on? I even had somebody say, do you know who Julie is? And would you have her on? And so, ladies and gentlemen, I've done it. After all these episodes, I've got Julie Schimmelpeningh, Eastman Chemical Company, Global Applications Manager. Julie, thank you so much for doing the podcast. The world is waiting. So thank you.
Oh, Max, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking. And, obviously it's always great to talk with you. And we've known each other for so long that it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. We do go way back, and I did get a kick out of it. It was a mutual friend who I think had a moment of like, do you know who Julie Schimmelpeningh is? She'd be great for your podcast. I'm like, of course I do. Of course. Julie's a legend. So anyway, speaking of you, it's funny. And I've said this to, I think, almost every guest. There's certain things I know about everybody that comes on the show, but I don't know everything. And the one thing about you is that I've always known you because you were here from the first moment I was in the industry, back in the 90s, and you've been there ever since. But I never knew what your path was to get to the industry. I mean, did you just go like right from high school to Solutia at the time? I mean, how did you get into this world?
No, it's a little bit of an odd path, actually. I went from college. I was at Emmanuel College in Boston, Massachusetts, and I got a degree in med tech and chemistry. And from there, I went and worked in a hospital for a little bit. It was so, I hate to say this, but what I was doing was not along my personality. I was bored to death, right? So
Right.
then I started working for a medical examiner, and that was just fascinating work, but not financially viable. And so I ended up at the time I was also playing in a band,
Okay.
and I ended up, well, I couldn't, work on the weekends. So I had to find something that I could work during the week. And my cousin was working at Monsanto at the time before it
Okay.
became Solutia. And he said, hey, we're hiring people, to work and do certain stuff. He goes, why don't you come in and interview? And so I did. And I started working there as a research engineer, and have been there since. And it's 34, going on 34 years.
Yeah. See, because I've been
Yeah.
in it. I've been in it with 31, and so yeah. So you've been here in it as long, and I just never knew. And so you were in a coroner's office, a medical examiner. You were
I
like looking at
was.
cadavers and everything.
Yes, my job was to assist on the autopsies, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was just fascinating. I know a lot of people get very touchy about that, but
Yeah.
I had a personal reason where that whole thing about helping closure and
Yeah.
everything else for people was very, very important to me, and I found it very fascinating. And had I had the financial um, um, wherewithal at that point in time, I likely would have gone into
Wow.
pathology. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we got lucky then, because I can't imagine this industry without you. That's the thing. And what you're known, you're known for a lot of things, obviously, but the one big thing is that you are the ultimate volunteer. I've talked to a bunch of people who I really respect, and I love their volunteering capabilities. But I mean, this is something that has been tried and true for you for years. I mean, you've been on committees and you've been everywhere. I mean, it is stuff of legends what you've done. I mean, how did you initially get involved? And then with how busy you are and your company has changed hands a few times, how have you been able to stay the course the way you have?
Well, and that's also a history. It started when I joined Monsanto. Of course, there's always attrition, and I had this just fabulous person, Pete Getty, who many of the people in the industry may still know. He was retiring, and he handled ASTM for us.
Okay.
And so, in my role, he said, "Listen, you need to monitor these things, and you need to watch and see what's going on with it." And so, nobody graduates or starts a job and wants to read standards. That is not the most enticing thing that anybody wants to get into. But Hurricane Andrew hit in August of 1992,
Right.
and the whole thing with all of that structure and building systems to help protect people and regulate and standardize, that all came along at that point in time. And so I really got into the ASTM side through that, and that really, I just saw how much good we could do by
Yeah.
putting that. And I mean, a lot of resistance. You had to educate, you had to do all that kind of stuff. And then the other part was ANSI Z97 around 1998 came into the same thing, and they had an organizational upheaval and a restructuring. And I remember Tom Zaremba looked at me and John Kent, and they said, we need somebody to take notes. Will you take notes at this meeting? Apparently they liked my note taking, because since then I have been the secretary of that organization.
Wow.
And I love it. I love the fact that we can debate and we can have differences of opinion and come to consensus and really bring something out that is great for the industry.
Yeah.
and make people understand that you need to put aside your marching orders from your individual companies in order to get something that's right for the industry. And the other part is Monsanto, Solutia, and now Eastman have been just fabulous in supporting my time to do that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible.
No, it is kudos to them for sure. And you do have a unique trait of being able to you'll work with all different types of people and also deliver, not happy news a lot of times. I mean, you speak your mind, but you do it where I've never had anybody who are like, I hate Julie forever. When you've delivered bad news or news that they didn't want to hear, I give you a lot of credit, because that's tough. That's a tough, you're always kind of walking a little tightrope when you're as heavily involved in these communities as you are.
Well, you do get people who hate you for some time. That does happen, but maybe not forever. But
Not you.
You do have to, and it's not always great news for me either.
Right.
I look at stuff come in, or I see, And it's like, well, it's not really what I want, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so as long as you keep that in perspective, I think all of this stuff can move forward.
No, good point. Good point. And again, I'm with Julie Schimmelpenning from Eastman. You can find them online at safelex.com. That's still the right website, right? That's the oldie but a goodie. What a great domain name. And let's talk a little bit about a couple things, both Eastman and, one of the things I've told the story on this podcast. I've told it in at speeches that I've done and so on. The beginning of the bird friendly movement. And we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about what Eastman's got going on for it. But the beginning of the bird friendly moment is a classic for me. I remember it as clear as day, which is kind of funny because my kids call me Mush because my memory is like terrible anymore. But yet the random memories in my head still stick, and this one still sticks of being in a Ghana meeting with you, Glass Association of North America, and you bringing up the fact that there is a movement amongst the world about protecting birds, and glass is bad for birds, and you went through this bird friendly thing, and I laughed out loud. I mean, embarrassingly so, because I thought you were playing a joke on us, like this is Julie having fun, and you're like, no, I'm serious. And here, fast forward years later, it's not only real, but it's a massive movement. So first off, do you look back at that time at all and say, wow, look at where it was and where it's come, and obviously you mentioned earlier you did it with the hurricane too, what you helped create and now what it's built. That's got to feel pretty good that you saw something, you stayed on it from the beginning, and then followed it all the way through.
Yeah, it is fascinating, and times were very different back then. When you think about, that's got to be 20 years ago now, Max. I mean, when you think about it, right? But you think about Hurricane Andrew, and you think about this stuff. The transfer of information was nowhere near what it is today. And so when you were digging up that kind of stuff and trying to find that stuff, it was sparse, to say the least, and you had to kind of put two and two together. And so it does feel good that it's something that you say, hey, I think this is going to be an issue that we need to address, and then to see the industry actually step up and address it. I mean, that's not just those two, but even the energy and all of that other stuff. The industry, the art industry is fascinating, amazing. Just, you cannot repress us, and it is ever changing, and those are the things that it does. So it is very, very satisfying to say, hey, you see this, we do something about it, we help the industry, we help the world, we help people, and it's all coming from us glass geeks, which is just incredible.
It is, and kudos. And so now with Eastman, the bird friendly march continues. And so I always ask, what's new and what's different and what's happening. Eastman's got something going on the bird friendly side of things.
We do actually. We've been looking for a long time, and saying, okay, what do we do? Is there something with interlayers, because that's our business? Is there something that we can do? And in the first half of this year, we're going to be introducing a bird-friendly product, and it's an interlayer product, and it's unlike anything you've seen. It actually, because it is an interlayer, it has a 3D noise disruptor in it.
Oh, wow.
And so it's actually in a 3D form. It's not a flat print, which actually adds to some of the highly effective notion of it. It's clear, it's unobtrusive, and it covers less than 1% of the overall glass area. So we can't wait to show people it and have them see it. As with any product that you have to make obvious to someone, you can see it. It's not invisible. But it's a very, very exciting product for us. We can't wait to put it out there.
And that's still coming first quarter still, is what you're saying, or second quarter?
Probably first half of the year.
Okay, great. That's exciting. That's exciting.
Yes. Very, very exciting.
Absolutely. That's a hot market, and really laminated as a whole is gotten so hot. I mean, its growth has been pretty interesting. I mean, it always had a place, and we always used to talk about the S's, the structural and safety and sound and so on. there was always that sort of niche, and it grew and grew and grew. But now it's everywhere. I mean, and there's more autoclaves, and there's more systems like non-autoclave systems like Burkle has and IGE has with their Lamy press. And so there's a lot more different, a lot of different, systems to make laminated. Has the growth of laminated glass in your 34 years? I mean, to me, it seems like it's explosive, but you've been there for so long. You're probably like, yeah, it's always been great.
Well, I think from a perspective of North America, it looks like it's exploding right now, and it's a funny history as well. In the 1950s, the very first building that ever incorporated laminated glass in a specification was put together, and that's the U.S. Air Force Cadet Chapel in Colorado.
Okay.
And that glass is still in place. As a matter of fact, it's being renovated right now for energy reasons, but that was the very first thing, and it was on U.S. soil. But the adoption of laminated glass didn't really start taking off on U.S. soils. Yeah, it was always there. It was always running until the security, the hurricane, and those types of things brought the real attributes of laminated glass into our awareness. Now, it's taken off in other parts of the world. It's the majority product in most of the European countries, and in some of the Asian countries as well. So the growth is on a global basis has been very steady. It's just all of a sudden in the Americas, it has exploded because people are now becoming aware and needing the extra value that it brings.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Security and protection now has grown so much in the last couple of years. And then I think, people are realizing, the multifunctionality of laminated glass, and more people are in it. Like I was mentioning earlier, there's more, I remember when I started, I mean, you could on one hand, how many people had the ability to make laminated glass.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it is much more spread out, and a lot of different techniques to produce it as well. Awesome. And so the availability of it is there. The awareness is there. Unfortunately, things like security, it's necessary for that, but it does do very well for those applications as well.
No doubt. And you've been on that wave from the beginning. Julie Schimmelpeningh with Eastman Chemical Company, Eastman Architectural Interlayers, I think is what I follow on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and then saflex.com online. So BEC's coming up. And again, as part of the volunteering aspect of things, you're at a lot of these functions. I have to ask you, whether it was a BEC or something else, what's your best memory of an industry event? Because you've been to one or two in your life, so I'm curious what may have percolated as your number one memory.
Well, it would certainly take more than one hand to count how many I've been to.
Yes,
but by far, and for very personal reasons, the 2019 Ghana conference, when I was awarded the Greg Carney Award, is by far the most dear to my heart. It was an industry event. It was a very personal achievement, and absolutely one of the best I've had. However, if I go after that, one of the most memorable had to have been the last BEC.
Yes.
I mean, if we think about that, we're flying in amidst the beginning of COVID. I went to 3rd and Lindsley and saw the time jumpers, Vince Gill, Wendy Moulton, and Amy Grant all in one night. Then went over to an industry event and got caught in the middle of a tornado.
Right.
I mean, how can you pack more into a BEC event, Never mind the incredible presentations and networking. So that one would have to, and it's recent, but it would have to top the list as well.
No doubt. I agree. And again, that award in 2019, our friend Greg Carney, gone way too soon, and amazing that he's been gone as many years as he's been gone, but we still remember him every year, and still in all of our hearts and our minds for sure. And it's a good memory for you, and excited to see you at BEC here later this month.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise. I can't wait to see you and all the people we haven't seen in 2 years.
Exactly.
Great.
It's time to get back together, and we'll just do it without a tornado or any pandemics on the horizon. So
that would be good. That would be good.
We could handle being chill. What about mentors in your career, or mentors? Is there somebody that stands out for you?
Well, it's hard to say just one. I would, it's in 34 years, you have different people touch your lives in so many different ways. And I would say the very first mentor I had was actually Bill Knutson from Viracon.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a fabulous man, and just kind of like, hey, you should really do this, and you should really do this, and why would you do this way versus this way? He was just incredible, and of course a little bit later came Greg
Yeah,
Carney,
yeah.
who was just awesome, but and just so remarkable. But I think the other one that has well, two, one was a salesperson in Monsanto. I traveled with Arnie Brown, who is an ex NHL player as well, and
Right, right.
he had a very unique way of keeping me in line, as you can imagine from a hockey player. But the more present one would be Ed Conrath. A lot of people don't know him. Some people do. He's spoken at our events, but he, from an ASTM and a security and all of that kind of stuff, and even a personal side, he's given me a kick in the rump every now and again when it's like, hey, get your expense reports done on time. What's wrong with you? That kind of thing. Fabulous. Just a lot of inspiration. And speaking of inspiration, I can't talk about mentors without saying so much of my career has come from inspiring people.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just mention that, when we were going to talk, I looked over this and I said, my inspiration today is coming from, and this is probably not PC, it's coming from the young ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people in the industry today, the young people, the Kayla, the Natividads, the Irmela Sowells, the Aaron Thompsons, that just dedicate themselves to our industry and inspire me to continue to learn and continue to go on. And kudos to them, coming out of a generation that's all about Me Too and selfishness and just giving back. I just need to mention them.
No, I think that's legit. And I've had Kayla on the podcast. She's absolutely fantastic, and in such a short time, she's made such an impact on this business. And Irmela, Irmela had the biggest shoes to fill. I mean, we just talked about Greg still in our minds and in our hearts, and he'll always be. And she had to replace him. I mean, that is, and she's not only done it, but she has cut her own path and been off the charts amazing. I'm a huge Irmela fan, and Aaron, I don't know. I have to one of these days meet the guy.
Just a fabulous mind. Just a great guy, great personality, warped as all get out, but just a really, he's our fabricating division chair, and you do need to meet him. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully I'll do that soon, and I'll mention that you said that I need to meet him. So I know the name and I see his name all the time, but I do not know him. So. Well, I do know you're busy. I have one more question for you because I know you've got a ton going on. How are you feeling about business this year? I mean, we talked about Laminated's growth. You've got an exciting product coming down the path with the bird-friendly product. But what are you looking at for 2022 and then 2023? I know it's kind of hard to answer in this moment in time with what's going on in the Ukraine and so on. But how are you guys feeling? How are you feeling?
Well, I think business we see from the corona situations, picking up. It's been strong, which was interesting through it, but it's picking up. People want to get back going, but the constraints is my concern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're throughout the whole construction and not just the construction industry, but the constraints are there. And we can take that one or two ways. We can take it as, oh, this is terrible and it's going to crush us. It's going to do everything else. Or we can take it from a standpoint of, the mother of all invention is necessity. Well, let's just say that the mother of invention during the construction side is going to need to be constraints. And I see our industry taking that challenge on like we have for everything else, continuing to do what we need to do. As I've heard you say so many times, communication around this is so key. Keep talking to each other about what is needed, what we can move. And I think the glass industry is going to come out strong again. I just think that we're going to need to be patient with each other. We're going to need to be understanding, and we're going to need to have, massive inventions in productivity, effectiveness, all of that kind of stuff. But we can do it. We always do.
Nice,
you know?
nice. Boy, you knew that was that you dead on there. I completely agree with you. We're a resilient group, and we're we can hustle. And again, I appreciate you mentioning the communication, because it's still amazes me in the heat of this. When I was traveling with Andrew Herring a couple of weeks ago in Florida, hearing from customers that they would have to call their vendor to see if the material was coming, and then they were then told, no, it's been delayed another week. That can't happen. We can't do things that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
We've
killer.
experienced that. We've experienced that with our vendors as well. In just certain equipment or materials that we've ordered, it's due to ship, and we call and say, "Is it on time?" No, it's 6 months away.
Yeah.
Okay, email works,
Exactly.
Yeah, but communication. I mean, there's so many things in life. Communication is so key. That, but in this, it's tight, and people are getting testy, and it's understandable.
Yeah.
But we do need to communicate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, good things to look ahead to overall. I've been blessed and honored to be your friend. At least I feel like I've been your friend for 30 plus
Oh,
years. So
absolutely.
it's been an honor to work with you and be with you along the ride, and finally get you on the podcast. I don't know who the second most requested person is now. I have to figure who that is, but it's probably my brother. I've already had him on. So at this point, I got to go down the list. But thank you so much, Julie. I really, really appreciate you doing the podcast.
Oh, Max, and knowing you for all these years has just been my luck and my pleasure. And I so much appreciate you having me on. So thank you very much.
Awesome. I'll see you soon at BEC.
Okay. Sounds good. Take care.
Thank you. All right, next up on the podcast, I'm really, again, I always say it, I'm thrilled, but I am. I'm excited to introduce or bring in Ron Crowl, Managing Director of Fenatech. And Ron is an industry staple. His company is an industry, powerhouse. Fenatech.com is where you can find them on the web. And Ron, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Max. It's a real honor.
Honor is definitely all mine. And it's funny because, each guest that I get to know a little bit better on this podcast, I've either known a little bit or, don't know the whole story. And on yours, it's, I don't know the whole story. I think the first time we really got to talk, we shared a cab together in Vegas, going to either BEC or a glass build. And I got a little bit of knowledge about you, but Fenatech is a powerhouse. Like I said earlier, it's a great company. We're going to talk about the year you just had and some of the big news that came out of it. But before you got started with Fenatech, let's go way back and go to your past. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Give me the history of Ron Crowl.
Wow. Yeah, that takes me back a few years. Max, I grew up in Northwest Pennsylvania, a small community called Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania,
Right.
and enjoyed a wonderful childhood there, but went on after high school and went to Penn State for 2 years, received an associate degree. And then I moved up to Rochester, New York, to the Rochester Institute of Technology for my electrical engineering technology degree. So yeah, it was nice beginnings in what I call the tri-state area, growing up in Pennsylvania, going to school in New York, and then landing in Ohio for the rest of my life so far.
Sure. So you went to RIT and then how did you end up, with Fenatech and building that and getting into the glass industry? How did that all come together?
Well, out of college, I moved to Ohio and I worked for a company called Bailey Controls. And I was an electronics engineer at Bailey and designed microprocessor-based electronics. So my introduction to software was at the very low level assembly code. And from Bailey, I moved on to a company called Rovasys. And Rovasys is a process automation company where I got involved in systems engineering and software development and project management and really honed my engineering skills there. And Rovasys was hired by a company in the Cleveland area that manufactured machinery for the glass industry.
Okay.
So we started developing software for machinery in the glass industry. And as time went on, we realized there was a real need for software for the fenestration industry. So we formed Fenatech and really started focusing on window and door companies for probably the first 10 years of our existence.
Okay.
And then get into the glass industry.
And you really filled a big need, because I remember, I came into the business in 91 and software was, especially on the fabrication side, it didn't exist. You were just starting to get into optimization software. I joke on here that my dad used to feel like he could optimize the cutter better than the optimization software. And he would sit there and he would draw it all out and he knew he could get a better yield out of a sheet than the software. But you filled a huge need at the right time, because as time went on, companies like mine, we didn't have anything, that could really be powerful like what you created at Fenatech. It just seemed like the natural progression from equipment, then into helping companies, both window and door, and then into the commercial, run their business.
Yeah, sometimes I always say it's better to be lucky than good. And I think that Fenatech is both lucky and good. We hit it at the perfect storm where the technology was becoming rapidly available, and we had the skill set and the identified need in the marketplace. So, I think it was a good timing on our part. And we did start different than most software companies. We started on the manufacturing floor, and we worked our way up into the office environment, then out further beyond that. So I think our perspective is always on shop floor automation and integration and making things efficient. And that's, I think that's been our sweet spot.
No doubt. And you've continued to evolve. You have unbelievable people. One of my all-time favorite people in this industry, Samantha Hudek, is with you. And you have just tremendous people. And that's kudos to you and your team. That's half the battle sometimes, is creating that team behind you.
It is Max. We've got long longevity in our employees. I was talking with some people the other day, and we're talking about two of our salespeople, and they've both been with Fenatech more than 20 years.
Wow.
And in the technology world, that's unheard of for people to stick around that long. But we've always believed in treating people fairly and treating them right, and creating good opportunities. And I think we've had some success in that area.
And you're still doing it. The one thing I noticed online is I think you guys are at every college fair in Ohio. If there's a college fair, you guys are there.
We are, and Samantha heads that effort up for us and does a great job. It's the technology world is so hot, and to attract good people, we interview a lot of students before we make the offers, and once we get them, we tend to be able to hold them pretty well.
Nice. And so, okay, you've built this incredible company. You've served a massive need in the industry, and then last year you made big news towards the end of the year with a big deal. Talk about the emotions of that deal and what happened, and if anything is different now, good, bad, or otherwise.
Well, it was a tough decision, but the time was right. As I enter what I call maybe the last 10 chapters of my career, I was very concerned about the company. I want to make sure that Fenatech was placed in good hands. I still plan to work a number of years, but the timing was right. Found the right company that shared the same values with us as 2020 Technologies. They're in the kitchen and bath design space. And shortly after we were acquired by 2020 and just getting settled into that seat, 2020 merged with CompuSoft out of Europe. So Fenatech went from a company of 105 employees worldwide to now part of a 2,000 person organization. And it's interesting because it's providing new opportunities for growth professionally for some of our staff, and obviously the financial backing to take us where we want to go.
Sure, and continue to grow it. And you have to look back from those early days of figuring out the plant floor to now. It's been a heck of a ride, but like you said, you got 10 plus more chapters to go.
Yeah, that's my goal is that, like I said, is I wanted to make sure that the employees in the company was placed in good hands, and for me to be able to continue to work in the environment that I've created and enjoyed. So I think it was a good match for us.
No doubt, no doubt. And one of the things that I wanted to catch up with you on is that from the technology side, again, it's sometimes obvious for people. Okay, software means technology, but it only means it if you use it correctly. It only means it if you're really utilizing it at its full potential. And that was the one thing that I think it was 2016 or 2018 at Dusseldorf that I met up with AJ from your company, and he took me through the Internet of Things. I didn't even know what that was. I thought, I had no idea what IoT was. And he took me through and showed me the way technology talked to the machinery and so on. Obviously technology, how far along are we? We 20% utilizing everything at our fingertips, 40%. I mean, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what we could really do as an industry technology wise.
Well, Max, I have a saying that I talk to my team members about all the time. I tell them that the Fenavision software that we develop will never be done. The moment that you stop investing in technology, it becomes obsolete.
Right.
So I think that we're still scratching the surface. I mean, we talk and do a lot of things with shop floor integration and automation, but I think there's worlds of opportunities extended beyond the walls of the factory, especially in the supply chain area. If we can start having visibility up and down the supply chain, both from fabricator standpoint and a supplier standpoint, that's where real value and extreme, competitiveness really kick in.
Sure, sure. And visibility is such a key word because right now communications is crucial, and to have that proper communication between, vendor to customer, you need the visibility to see what's going on, and that's where obviously you guys come in and have made a heck of a run at it.
Yeah, and we've got some work to do in that area. I think that may be beyond the shop floor. That's the next big thing, is that how can we expand that visibility and communication between supplier and fabricator?
No doubt, no doubt. No, I'm excited. How do you feel now? It's been 5 months since the deal, 6 months from the deal. How do you feel? Do you feel any different? I mean, because I feel like you're still the owner, so like, but how do you feel?
Well, I tell people that for the first time in about 30 years, I have a boss, and that's a unique thing. But fortunately, the staff at 2020 and CompuSoft are really all about finding success and allowing us to grow. So, it's a new feeling for me. But in my day-to-day operation, I act as still the owner. I want the best for the employees, best for the company, best for the industry.
Awesome, awesome. And we're going to talk about the industry and some big things and the things that you're involved in. But before I get to, I gotta go back to a fun one. And so my question is, you and I, when we do see each other, or I email you for whatever reason, I always bring up sports because that's how I live. I know you're a big sports fan. I know you're a Cleveland guy, Indians, Browns. I assume Cavs. I don't know if you're a basketball guy, but I assume Cavs. But who's your all-time favorite athletes? I mean, who are the guys that you know in your realm of a Hall of Fame? Who are Ron's favorite athletes of all time?
That's great. I am a three-sport fan: baseball, basketball, football,
Gotcha.
and I think that the players and the athletes that I value are the ones that are hardworking, humble, don't speak a lot, but go about their daily work. And so, if I look at each sport, in football. Currently, the person I really think is exceptional is Cleveland running back Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
A gentleman that runs the ball hard. He plays hard every down, and he doesn't speak a lot, but he goes to work every day, works hard, and sets a good example.
Yeah.
If I go to basketball, I go outside of Cleveland. The person that's caught my eye for many years is I got to go out to Golden State and look at Klay Thompson.
Nice.
And that is a guy that if I was going to build a basketball team, he'd be the person I build it around, because humble man, again, works hard in the shadows of others out there, but it's a great competitor.
And it's interesting you pick him because I think most would either go with Steph Curry because he's the superstar, or Draymond Green, who brings all the attention onto himself. It's interesting you have that analytical mind of saying, okay, that's the guy you build around.
Yeah, for me, it's all about hardworking, humble people, and I think that reflects the type of people that Fenatech has on board.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then if I got to go to baseball, it's surprising. I'm a big Cleveland fan, of course, but my all-time, hands down hero in sports, a man that's not only a great outfielder, but a huge humanitarian, Roberto Clemente. And, Roberto, in my office, at my home office, I've got a lot of Cleveland memorabilia hanging on the walls and the shelves, but in the middle of all that is a picture of Roberto.
I love it.
As a kid growing up in Northwest Pennsylvania, I was always Roberto Clemente when we played in the field at my mom and dad's house.
I love it. I love it. And I grew up in Pittsburgh, and Roberto, I follow a little bit behind. My favorite team of all time was the '79 Pirates, and Roberto had passed away, a few years before that. But I know my brother's all-time favorite player, all time, was always Roberto Clemente. Yeah. And so good choice and good taste, and a heck of a human who died, trying to, take care of people ravaged by an earthquake, and completely unfortunate, but he was doing what he needed to do, and very sad to this day that he passed so young.
Yeah, he was a terrific humanitarian and a heck of a role model, and somebody I still look up to after all these years.
Yeah, you can tell, to me, you can tell a lot about a person on who they like athlete wise, and so you like the hardworking, get it done, folks that are also really good people. So there you go. Kudos to you. I like it. Good choices. Good choices. Thank you. All right. So flipping back, let's talk industry, and let's talk G-Pad, which is up over your shoulder for those of you watching on YouTube. And again, I'm with Ron Crowl, Fenatech. You can find them, fenatech.com online. But one of the exciting things that Fenatech had started, and now it's an NGA event, is GPAD, glass processing and automation days. So let's start backwards. You started GPAD as a way to, I assume, get people more in tune to the technology that they may not be seeing in their everyday sort of world, or was there a different reason that you started it?
Well, I think that the roots of GPAD come from, as Fenatech going to trade shows for more than a decade and walking around trade shows, as Fenatech has a booth there, and we're talking about our software, but I look across the aisle and you see all this wonderful machinery, but there wasn't a forum anywhere in the industry to bring machinery and software together to talk about integration and how to make the shop floor extremely efficient. Everybody was talking about work cell efficiencies. Mm-hmm. And so they were doing it in small islands. And, we wanted to bring a forum together by which we could, promote to the industry that the software is the center of the universe in a manufacturing plant, especially, 2011 when we started GPAD, technology was really starting to gain a lot more momentum than it had in the previous year. So that was the reason that we did it. And when we did it, we wanted to do it in the form of, for 20 years now at Fenatech, we've done user conferences. Mm-hmm. And the user conferences have been multi-day events, very intimate affairs where we educate our clients. They tell us what they want to see next. And then a lot of social aspect to it. And that's the way that GPAD was formed and carried on. So, we got to a point after, probably 6 GPAD events that, I felt that the value was significant to the industry, and it was time to put it in the hands of the professionals that do organization shows and really know how to promote things to a bigger audience. And that's when, Nicole and I got together, Nicole Harris at NGA, mm-hmm. and we started talking about finding a home for GPAD. And I think it's very important to, educate the industry and, as well as we promote technology. And I felt that NGA was the right platform for it.
Now, I'm excited about it. And I think that the thing that jumped out at me was that when I attended it, the presentations, weren't dancing around the edges. They were straightforward. Here's what we can do with this technology. And a lot of times, there was always that you would, whether it was an AIA presentation or an industry, presentation, you always had to be vague. At GPAD, the presentations aren't vague. They are, this is what's happening. This is how it can work. This is how it can benefit from you. And I think that works. I really do. I think the audience really, really respected and really appreciated that. Did you have any worries when this all started that these things could be looked at as too much blatant advertising? Because I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as a great chance to really understand the product without having to think too much through it, like read between the lines sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, we took it back to, again, going back 20 years when we started our user conference, we had the same concerns with, at that time, when Fenatech started a user conference 20 years ago, we were very regional players. So we were bringing in our customers from very, that competed with each other on a daily basis. And I was a little fearful that everybody'd sit and look at the walls and not talk, but it turned out totally different. There was a lot of collaboration going on. So when we brought GPAD together, one thing that we made it very clear to the presenters was that, let's make sure this is primarily educational. Mm-hmm. The sales opportunities can happen in the evenings over a cocktail.
Right.
But let's educate. And as we educate, you present yourselves as the expert in this one area. So you have to provide some meat and potatoes on the plate to really get somebody to dive into it.
And I think it happened before, and I think it's going to happen again at the end of March. And again, GPAD comes the end of March 29th and 30th in Nashville. You can check it out online at glass.org and then hit the events tab, and you'll see GPAD on there. And there's still plenty of time to register. And so, Ron, if one of my listeners or viewers was on the fence, they're a fabricator, and they're like, I have no idea what this whole thing is. What would you do to get them over the fence to come to Nashville and come to GPAD?
Well, I'd ask them to bring their toughest problems to the table there. What are you struggling with? We're going to have a collection of machine vendors and software people, and in one spot where you spend a day and a half and you can listen to the latest technology. But more importantly, during the breaks, during the social events in the evenings, that's the time to have those detailed conversations where you can pull a group of people together. Yeah. And instead of spending months trying to connect to everybody independently, you've got them in one place at one time.
That's perfect. Yeah, and I agree. I'd seen on your, you had done a webinar with Cindy Sim from DFI and Nicole Harris, and it was kind of what to expect from GPAD. And you talked about the networking and the nights, just the value of that. And I think you gave an example of you watched this group of people, from all different walks of the operation kind of get together and all of a sudden solve something. And it was fascinating to you. And I was like, that's it. You nailed it.
Yeah, it's all about collaboration. And, the days of operating a business, any individual business in a vacuum and by yourself are over. It's all about integration and tying things together. And like I said before, as a software vendor, we think software is the center of the universe. So we're happy to provide the experience and helping everybody the best we can.
That's awesome. And it's coming up end of March, and hopefully we can see everyone there, because it's a heck of an event. And obviously, before I let you go, I have to ask, aside from bringing GPAD to the Holer industry, for the Fuller industry through NGA, you're also personally very involved at the National Glass Association. What is that volunteering drive that you have? Because I know it's not like you got a ton of time on your hands. You have always been extremely busy. You're very hands-on. You're not a sit behind the desk and point and tell people to do stuff. You're a doer. What drives you to give that extra time to be a volunteer for the industry?
Well, I think it goes back to, you look at the sports people that I admire. It's people that are hardworking and humble somewhat, and doing things in their communities as well. And in my community is the glass community. The industry's been very, very, very good to Fenatech, myself and my family, for many years. And when Nicole Harris and the NGA team approached me about the opportunity to sit on the board, I jumped at the opportunity because it's my chance to give back to the industry the best I can.
Awesome. And you're a great addition to that board. That board is fantastic. I assume it's got to be fun for you. You love the collaboration, and that board has just so many neat people in there. Between Jody and Jim Stathopoulos, and it's a really neat crew of people that you get to visit with when you guys have your meetings.
It is, and unfortunately, for the last 2 years, they've been all virtual meetings because of COVID. But you're right. And these folks represent parts of the industry that I typically don't interact with, as the glazier community, and that's what's nice about tying BEC with GPAD, because it gives us a chance to learn even more about the industry we serve.
Awesome. And then again, GPAD and BEC both coming up at the end of the month of March, but GPAD's the really the exciting one. In this conversation that Ron and I are having, hit that events tab at glass.org to learn more. Last question: 2022. How's it looking for you? How's everything going so far? And are you positive about going forward? I know our world's a little crazy right now, outside the industry, but how are you feeling about 2022?
Well, we're off to a fast start. Had a great January, and the first quarter looks wonderful. The sales pipeline's full. The inquiries are coming in. So the industry's alive. Let's just hope that the country and Europe settle down and the world gets back under control.
Let's from your mouth, absolutely. Let's make that happen. Again, I've been with Ron Crowl, Managing Director, Fenatech. They're a 2020 company now. You can find them online at fenatech.com. And also GPAD, which is coming up at the end of the month. You'll see Ron there, along with all the other heavy hitters on the machinery and software side of things in this industry. Ron, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. This was great, and I love the Klay Thompson choice. That's that one was really inspired. Not that the others weren't, but I love that choice. Fantastic. But thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Max.
Okay, there you go. 3 fun interviews this month and 3 unbelievable industry people, all of which you can see. All 3 of them will be at BEC/GPAD coming up at the end of the month in Nashville. Please join us then. As I always do, as I close up, just a couple quick pop culture sort of notes. If you haven't watched Reacher on Amazon, check that one out. It keeps your attention. It was a great treadmill show, 8 episodes, exciting, intense. As I was pounding along on the treadmill, did not feel like I was struggling to hold on for dear life, because the show is very interesting. Well done there. I was looking forward to the Larry David documentary, and at the last minute, it was supposed to be released this week. Larry David, who is kind of a quirky, wild individual, said, nope, it's not ready for publication, and he bagged it. So it's on hold. Who knows when that thing will be ready? He works to the beat of his own drummer, so no Larry David documentary there. And, we'll see when it comes out. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing everybody. End of the month, couple weeks, Nashville, Tennessee. Go to glass.org, check out the events tab, be there for BEC and GPAD. Trust me, you will have a great time. And I look forward to visiting with everybody there and reporting back at the April podcast. I've got 2 out of the 3 guests lined up for April, working on that last one. We'll tighten that up, and then we'll have a great show coming up in April. But thank you, everyone, for listening, for watching, for supporting. It means a ton. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing everybody in person here in a couple weeks. Thank you very much.
Oh, the music is stopped.